The first light of morning creeps over the rugged ridges of the target's mountains. The air is cool and dry, touched with the faint scent of thyme and olive wood smoke. A rooster calls somewhere in the distance, its cry echoing down into a narrow valley where the city of Sparta stirs to life. From afar, the settlement looks peaceful, whitewashed homes scattered among orchards, streams glinting like thin threads of silver, but behind that quiet beauty lies a way of life built on unbending rules. Everything here, every gesture, every heartbeat, is shaped by the same idea, that survival demands discipline. The land and its demands. Sparta's soil is thin and rocky. The fields must be coaxed into giving grain, and the rivers run short in summer. Unlike fertile Athens to the north, the Spartan valley could never rely on abundance. The people learned instead to live with little, to praise restraint over indulgence. In time, that frugality became a philosophy. To feed themselves, the Spartans conquered their neighbors, the Messenians, and reduced them to helots, agricultural serfs who worked the land. The Spartans lived as a permanent military camp surrounded by those they ruled. Every man was a soldier, because every night he slept among potential enemies. Every child was a future shield for the city, a ruthless beginning. Imagine a small stone building near the city's edge. Inside, elders sit in the dim morning light, waiting. A midwife enters carrying a newborn, still wrapped in a simple cloth. The old men study the infant, its limbs, its posture, its cry. If the child appears strong, they nod silently. The mother will raise it. If it seems weak or sickly, the elders shake their heads. The law allows no sentiment. The infant will be left outside the city on the cold slopes of targets. No one speaks of it afterward. For the Spartans, cruelty is not cruelty, it is necessity. They believe that to protect the city, weakness must never take root. Childhood without comfort. Those who survive grow quickly under watchful eyes. Spartan mothers are famed for their firmness. They tell their sons that their duty is to be brave, to bring back their shields from battle, or to be carried upon them. Tenderness is rare, affection, restrained. At the age of 7, the boy leaves home. He joins the agog, the rigorous state training that defines every Spartan life. Imagine the parting, a mother's face calm but pale, a father's hand resting briefly on a shoulder, no words of comfort spoken. The boy does not look back. From this day he belongs to Sparta. The world of the agog. The boys sleep together in barracks, rough wooden halls smelling of leather, smoke and sweat. Their clothes are coarse wool, unchanged through summer heat and winter frost. They run barefoot across gravel and thorn. They eat little, just barley porridge, a few olives, sometimes a scrap of meat. Hunger is deliberate. They are told that an empty stomach sharpens the mind. Stealing food is encouraged, but if caught, the punishment is severe. A lash across the back, silence through tears. Not because theft is wrong, but because clumsiness shows a lack of cunning. Pain is a teacher, shame a companion. Older youths command the younger. They drill them in running, wrestling, endurance. At dawn, the clang of bronze echoes across the training field. Wooden spears striking posts, sandals scraping in rhythm. Orders are given in short, clipped tones. The boys learn to obey instantly, without question. Lessons of silence. Speech itself becomes a form of discipline. Spartans are famous for their brevity. A clever, concise answer is praised more than a long speech. The boys practice saying much with few words, learning the art of control even in conversation. They are told that noise is weakness, that true strength speaks quietly. At night, they lie on mats of reeds they have gathered themselves. The hall is dimly lit by one small lamp. Some whisper stories, legends of heroes who died unflinching, of kings who refused to retreat. Others stare at the ceiling beams until sleep takes them. Outside, the wind brushes through cypress trees. Wolves call in the distance, the roll of fear from time to time. The instructors test them in ways that seem cruel. A sudden blow, a forced run through cold rain, an order to stand barefoot on frost. There are no explanations. The lesson is endurance. A Spartan boy must never show pain, never cry out. If he does, his peers are punished alongside him, so that collective shame replaces individual weakness. The agog is not simply military training, it is social conditioning. It erases individuality, molds loyalty, and binds the self to the city. By adolescence, each boy thinks first of the unit, not of himself, glimpses of pride. Yet within this harshness a strange pride blooms. The boys compete in races and mock battles. Those who excel are admired by their fellows. A clever tactic, a well-aimed strike, a stoic endurance of pain. Each earns silent respect. When one boy falters, another helps him without words. Compassion is not forbidden, only unspoken. They learn songs that celebrate discipline, slow rhythmic chants accompanied by stamping feet. The melodies are haunting, part hymn, part march. Their harmonies bind the group together, each voice blending until individuality disappears into collective sound. Transition to manhood at 20, a young Spartan becomes a full soldier, a hoplite. He receives a heavy bronze shield, a short sword, and a red cloak. The cloak is both practical and symbolic. Red hides blood, but it also marks unity. To see a Spartan phalanx advancing across the plain, rows of red cloaks, shields glinting like a wall of sunlight, was to witness a living machine. Yet the transformation from boy to man is quiet. There is no ceremony of joy, no family feast, only acceptance into a communal mess hall where men eat simple meals together until old age. Each evening they share barley broth darkened with pig's blood, so bitter that outsiders called it inedible. The Spartans say the taste builds endurance. Conversation is measured. Topics revolve around duty, tactics, and the state. Laughter is rare but sincere. There is comfort in sameness, in belonging, the hidden shadows for every free Spartan warrior. There are many helots, enslaved farmers who sustain the system. From time to time, the Spartan government declares ritual war on them, allowing young soldiers to kill without legal penalty. A grim exercise meant to control fear and maintain dominance. The helots live in quiet dread, yet their labor feeds the warriors who guard the state. It is a cycle both efficient and brutal. The boys are taught to see this not as cruelty, but as order. To question it would be to question Sparta itself, and that is unthinkable. The quiet inside discipline. When the day's training ends, the city grows hushed. Torches flicker along stone paths, casting orange light on walls. You can almost feel the fatigue in the air, the heavy stillness of bodies pushed to their limit. Somewhere, a lyre plays a slow tune. Its notes drift through the barracks like smoke. A young man sits on the threshold, looking toward the distant mountains. He feels the ache in his muscles, the sting of small wounds. He breathes deeply, smelling the dust, the faint sweetness of fig trees beyond the fields. He wonders, perhaps just for a moment, what it might be like to live differently, to wake without orders, to speak freely, to laugh aloud. But the thought passes quickly. Tomorrow he must rise before dawn. The rhythm of their lives, discipline, endurance, obedience. These are not punishments, but the very rhythm of Spartan existence. To them, comfort weakens, softness corrodes. Their city survives because its people accept hardship as destiny, and so the cycle continues. Children taken from their mothers, boys shaped into soldiers, men molded into examples. Even kings are bound by the same iron code. It is this relentless devotion that will one day place a king named Leonidas and his 300 warriors at the narrow pass of Thermopylae, facing an empire beyond measure. Their courage will become legend, sung in distant lands, retold for centuries. But before that moment of glory lies this long apprenticeship of silence and pain, the quiet making of men who do not flinch. As the sun sinks behind the target's range, the valley grows dark. Smoke curls upward from the barracks fires. The young soldiers finish their sparse meal and stretch out upon their reed mats. In the dimness, someone hums an old march tune, barely audible. The wind slips through the shutters, carrying the scent of dry earth and olive leaves. Sleep comes slowly, the kind born of exhaustion rather than peace. Outside, the stars are sharp and cold. Inside, the silence is complete. This is Sparta. Not the legend of cinema, but the real rhythm of survival. A people forged by necessity, who traded comfort for endurance, emotion for order. A society that believed greatness could only rise from hardship. And as you imagine that distant world, the sound of marching feet fades into the background of your thoughts. Steady, endless, like the heartbeat of history itself. The story of Sparta reaches its sharpest point in the person of a single man. His name is Leonidas. And though centuries have passed, his image lingers. A quiet figure framed by shield and spear, standing against impossible odds. But the truth of Leonidas is not the myth you might imagine. He was not born a hero. He was born into a system that made heroes through endurance, obedience, and inevitability. A Spartan. Among equals, Leonidas was a king, yes, but Sparta had two kings. Always two, ruling side by side, a built-in tension meant to balance ambition with caution. He belonged to the aged line, said to descend from the hero Heracles. But such lineage mattered little in a city where all men, even kings, were bound by the same iron rules. He had endured the agog like any other Spartan boy. He had known hunger and cold, the sting of the whip, the long silences after punishment. He had shared the same barley porridge, the same cold floors. And so, when he rose to command, his authority came not from luxury or divine right, but from the unspoken respect of those who had suffered beside him. Leonidas was not a man of loud speeches. Accounts describe him as reserved, deliberate, with eyes that measured rather than pierced. He embodied the Spartan ideal. Dignity through restraint, the shadow of empire. By the time Leonidas ruled, the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea. It was vast, disciplined, and confident. When its great king Xerxes decided to march west, he carried with him an army so large that later storytellers would call it endless. A tide of men, horses, and ships that seemed to swallow the horizon. To the Greeks, Persia was both terrifying and fascinating. They admired its wealth, its silks, its perfumes, its golden halls, but they also feared its power. The idea that a single ruler could command so many lives, that obedience could stretch across continents. Greece, by contrast, was a patchwork of quarreling city-states. Athens, proud and argumentative. Corinth, wealthy and pragmatic. Sparta, austere and slow to act. They had fought each other often. Now they faced a choice. To stand apart meant certain defeat. To stand together meant abandoning centuries of rivalry. The gathering at the pass the Persians approached from the north, following the curve of the Aegean coast. There, between mountain and sea, lay a narrow path called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. It was a bottleneck where numbers mattered less than courage, where a small force could hold a great one, if only for a time. The Greeks chose to make their stand there. Leonidas volunteered to lead, not because he believed he could win, but because he understood what his death might mean. Sparta was bound by law. Its main army could not march far during a religious festival. Only a small advance force could go, officially as scouts. So Leonidas selected 300 men, each one a father, so that no Spartan bloodline would end completely. The march north imagined their departure. No fanfare, no triumphant music, only the rhythmic tramp of sandals on packed earth. The shields gleam faintly in the dawn. Red cloaks stir in the wind. Women stand at the edges of the road, silent. Some hold infants, some do not. Each man knows the unspoken truth. They are not coming back. As they travel, the landscape changes. Olive groves giving way to stony hills, the air thick with the smell of pine. At night they camp under clear skies, stars glimmering like cold embers. The men eat in silence, sharpen their weapons and sleep lightly. In the morning they march again. The rhythm of their steps becomes a meditation. Steady, enduring, like the pulse of Sparta itself. The battle begins. When they arrive at Thermopylae, the Persians are already near. Their camp spreads across the plain like a city of tents, white, blue, and gold. Drums echo faintly in the distance. The Spartans take position along the narrow pass, the mountains rising behind them, the sea murmuring to their right. The air is warm and heavy with salt. A faint mist clings to the ground. They wait. Then, the first wave of Persians advances. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, marching in unison. Their spears glitter like a field of sunlight. They expect the Spartans to break, but the phalanx holds. Bronze shield presses against bronze shield, a wall of bodies moving as one. When the front line tires, another moves forward. The formation breathes, flexes, flows. Alive, disciplined, and unshaken, the Persians are forced to retreat, and for a moment the impossible has happened. The great empire has been halted by a few hundred men. The calm between nights falls softly over the pass. The fires burn low, From the Persian camp, distant music drifts, flutes, voices, laughter forced against the dark. In the Spartan lines, silence reigns. Some men mend broken straps, others rest their heads against shields. Leonidas moves among them, speaking quietly. There is no grand speech, no cry for glory. He simply reminds them to eat, to sleep, to stand firm. They know what comes next. The betrayal, a local Greek, seeking reward, reveals a hidden mountain path to the Persians, a trail that circles behind the defenders. When dawn comes, Leonidas receives the news. He understands immediately. They are surrounded. There will be no retreat. He dismisses most of the allied troops, sending them home before the trap closes. Only his 300 Spartans and a few hundred loyal Thespians remain. He could have fled too, no one would have blamed him. But he does not. The laws of Sparta do not permit surrender, and Leonidas has come not merely to fight, but to teach. To remind Greece that freedom, though fragile, is worth the price. The last stand, when the final attack begins, it comes like thunder. Persian arrows darken the morning sky, hissing down like rain. The Spartans raise their shields and advance anyway. The ground shakes beneath their feet. The air grows hot and heavy with dust. They fight not wildly, but rhythmically. Step, thrust, withdraw. The discipline drilled into them since childhood now becomes their final prayer. The Persian elite, the immortals, move in to finish the fight, but the narrow pass denies them space. For hours, the clash continues, metal against metal, breath against exhaustion. One by one, the Spartans fall, their shields dented, their bodies bruised. Leonidas himself is struck down. Around his fallen body, his men form a final circle. They fight until the last of them lies still. The silence after, when the noise ends, the sea is the only sound. A slow, endless whisper. The Persians move among the fallen. They find no one begging for mercy, only faces calm in death, eyes turned toward the sky. The pass is taken, but at a cost that will echo through history. Xerxes has won a victory that feels like defeat. He expected fear, he found defiance. The Greeks, hearing of the sacrifice, are stirred to unity. For the first time, they see themselves not as Athenians, Corinthians, or Spartans, but as one people. In time, they will drive the Persians back across the sea, and at the root of that triumph lies the memory of Thermopylae, a moment of stillness in the face of overwhelming force, the making of a legend centuries later. Poets and playwrights will reshape the story. They will give Leonidas fierce speeches and glorious deaths, painting the battle in fire and bronze, but the truth is quieter, more human. It is the story of men who obeyed their duty without question, who faced death as they had faced hunger and pain. With composure, Leonidas himself becomes more than a king. He becomes a symbol, not of conquest, but of steadfastness. His statue still stands in modern Greece, spear raised, eyes forward. Beneath it, a simple inscription, Melon Lebe, come and take them. Words spoken not with rage, but with calm inevitability. The long echo as you imagine the pass at Thermopylae. Picture it as it is today. The sea has receded. The hot springs still bubble faintly from the earth. Wildflowers grow among the stones. The wind carries no sound of battle, only the gentle rustle of grass. Yet somewhere in that landscape, the memory lingers. Not in the clash of arms, but in the quiet before the storm, in the measured breath of men who chose duty over survival. Their story is not one of victory, but of stillness against the tide. It is a reminder that even in the face of futility, courage can be calm, and that some legacies whisper louder than they shout. And as the night deepens, the last embers of their campfires fade into darkness. All that remains is the soft murmur of the sea, an eternal lullaby for those who refuse to yield. High in the folds of Mount Parnassus, where the air smells faintly of pine and the stones glow pale gold beneath the sun, there lies a hollow in the mountainside. The ancient sanctuary of Delphi. Here, in the heart of Greece, people once came to ask questions of the gods. Kings, soldiers, farmers, and wanderers. All climbed the winding path to the temple of Apollo, carrying offerings and hope. They came seeking answers, but what they found was something far less certain. the soft voice of a woman half hidden in shadow, speaking words that seemed to belong to both earth and dream. The journey to Delphi. Imagine approaching the sanctuary as it once was. The mountain path curls upward like a ribbon, lined with stone treasuries built by cities across Greece. Each small building glimmers with offerings. Bronze tripods, carved lions, precious bowls engraved with names now forgotten. The air is thin and still, broken only by the distant song of cicadas. Pilgrims move slowly, dusty from travel. They carry laurel branches as tokens of purification. Some have walked for days, others for weeks. At the final turn, the temple appears, gleaming white against the dark cliffs, its columns catching the morning light. The god who rules here is Apollo, the archer, the bringer of light, the patron of harmony and order. It is said that when he first claimed this place, he slew the great serpent Python that guarded the earth's secrets. And from that moment, Delphi became a place where divine truth and human uncertainty intertwined. The Pythic at the center of the temple sits a woman known as the Pythic. She is not a priestess of high birth, but a local woman chosen for her calm mind and purity of life. Before she speaks for the god, she undergoes long rituals of cleansing, washing in the Castilian spring, chewing bay leaves, burning incense of laurel and myrrh. Then she descends into the Dayton, the inner chamber. The room is dim, lit only by the flicker of oil lamps. From a crack in the earth rises a faint vapor, carrying a sweet, earthy scent. Perhaps from underground gases, perhaps from burning herbs. The Pythic breathes deeply and settles upon a bronze tripod over the cleft. Her body sways slightly. Her eyes grow distant. Those waiting outside grow silent. When she speaks, her voice is low, rhythmic, and almost musical. The priests who attend her listen carefully, writing down fragments of her words. They will later shape them into verse, polished and obscure, before delivering them to the petitioners, the language of ambiguity. The answers of Delphi are never clear. They are riddles, layered like mist. A king might ask whether to wage war, and the oracle will say, "If you cross the river, a great empire will fall." Which empire? His own or the enemy's? The meaning depends not on the words, but on the listener's desire. This ambiguity is the secret of Delphi's power. A truth too direct would bind the listener. An uncertain one makes them return. The oracle does not dictate. She reflects. Each person hears what they already hope or fear. The power of belief. In a world without scientific certainty, the oracle's voice carries immense weight. Armies march or stand still because of her. Cities rise or crumble under her influence. Even Sparta, with all its discipline, bows to her guidance. When the Persians prepared to invade, Greek envoys came to Delphi seeking reassurance. The oracle's first words were dark. "Fly to the ends of the earth. The fire-tipped spears are upon you." The priests, unsettled, asked again, and the answer softened. "The wooden wall shall not fail." Athens took it to mean their fleet. Their wooden walls, they fought by sea and in time prevailed. Whether the oracle intended that meaning or not, no one could say. But victory made the prophecy true. The theatrical mind, it is easy to imagine the oracle as pure mysticism. Yet Delphi was also theatre. Careful staging, symbolic gesture, shared emotion. The approach to the temple, the rhythm of chanting priests, the glow of torches against marble, all prepared the visitor to believe. Even the mountain itself played its role. Its echoing cliffs turning murmurs into whispers of the divine. The Python's trance may have been heightened by real geological vapors, perhaps ethylene gas, known even today to induce calm euphoria and dreamlike states. Her voice, slow and melodic, would have seemed otherworldly to those waiting in fear or hope, and when she spoke, the priests transformed her murmured phrases into poetry that could survive centuries. In this way, Delphi became a mirror of the human mind. Half faith, half suggestion. People did not merely hear the god, they heard themselves. The weight of influence Delphi's prestige endured for hundreds of years. No Greek city ignored it. Even foreign kings sent gifts. The sanctuary grew wealthy. Its treasuries gleamed with gold, silver, and precious statues. The priests maintained meticulous records, and envoys came from as far as Egypt and Persia to seek Apollo's counsel. But with wealth came politics. Rulers learned to shape their questions carefully, or to bribe the interpreters. Some oracles began to echo the interests of powerful patrons. Others grew vague when fear threatened their authority, and yet despite corruption and skepticism, Delphi's aura remained intact. People still climbed the sacred road, still believed that within those marble walls, the god's breath mingled with human air. The quiet behind the curtain. Now imagine the oracle's chamber late in the evening, after the last pilgrim has gone. The lamps flicker low, the floor strewn with laurel leaves. The Pythic sits quietly, her trance long broken, her face drawn but serene. Outside, the mountain hums with the sound of night insects. Does she believe her own words? Does she think she truly speaks for Apollo? Or does she sense the delicate balance between faith and performance? Perhaps even she does not know. Perhaps belief and doubt coexist in her like light and shadow. There is a kind of peace in that ambiguity. The same peace that sleep brings when thought dissolves into half-formed images. The oracle does not need certainty, she offers something gentler. Permission to wonder. The decline of the voice centuries pass. Rome rises, the old Greek world fades. Emperors still send gifts, but the questions change, no longer about wars or colonies, but about fate and eternity. The Pythic grows older, her voice thinner, the temple cracks from age and earthquakes. Then one day, the god falls silent. When the last Pythic speaks, her words are simple. All is ended. The god is gone. The Christians who later come to Delphi find only ruins. They see in the oracle's silence a triumph of new faith over old superstition. But perhaps it is merely the mountain resting, the echo fading back into stone. The modern quiet today, the remains of Delphi still cling to the slope of Mount Parnassus. Visitors walk among broken columns and worn steps. The air smells of thyme and sun-baked rock. Somewhere below, water still murmurs through the Castilian spring. If you close your eyes, you might imagine the sound of sandals on gravel, the low hum of ancient prayers, the faint exhale of earth through the cracks of time. There is no Pythic now, no vapor, and no priest to interpret your question. But if you listen long enough, you may hear something else. The quiet voice that has always been there, the one that speaks not from beneath the earth but from within your own thoughts. It whispers without words, not promising truth but offering calm. And perhaps that was the real secret of Delphi. Not prophecy but stillness, not the answer but the pause before it. Because in every age the human heart seeks the same thing, to know what lies ahead, to believe there is meaning in the patterns of the world, to feel, if only for a moment, that we are seen. And so the oracle endures, not in stone or ritual, but in the quiet act of wondering. A breath between certainty and sleep, as the mountain darkens and the last light fades across the ruins. The wind carries the faint scent of laurel and dust. The cicadas fall silent. Only the steady rhythm of your breathing remains. And in that stillness you can almost hear the whisper once more. Soft, measured, as if the earth itself were exhaling a memory. Be still. Listen. The answer is already within you. Imagine for a moment that you have left behind the hard earth of Sparta, the rhythmic thud of boots, the scrape of spears against shields, the endless bark of commands. All fade behind you. In their place comes a gentler hum, laughter, distant music, the soft clink of pottery. You are in Athens now, a city of light, of talk, of questioning. Here, the air itself seems to move differently. It carries the scent of olive oil and honeyed wine, rather than sweat and bronze. The Athenian evening begins quietly, with the lowering of the sun over the Acropolis. The marble temples catch the last of the daylight and hold it, glowing gold against the deepening blue of the sky. In the narrow streets below, torches are being lit, one by one, flickering in the hands of slaves as they prepare for the evening meal. You follow the warm light toward a house not modest from the outside, but welcoming. Inside, couches are laid out in a semicircle. Men recline on them, propped on one elbow, their sandals neatly stacked near the door. The air is filled with the scent of roasted meat, herbs and sweet cakes. The symposium, the Athenian evening feast, is about to begin. Unlike the harsh communal meals of Sparta, the Athenian symposium is as much about conversation as it is about food. The meal itself is simple: bread dipped in oil, olives, figs, cheese, and a bit of grilled fish or lamb. But the wine, that is what transforms the evening. Mixed carefully with water in a large clay crater, it becomes the centerpiece of the night. Each guest receives a cup, and as they drink, conversation flows. At the head of the group sits the symposiarch, the evening's host and guide. His role is part leader, part entertainer. He sets the pace, not of marching or fighting, but of drinking, talking, and thinking. Too much wine too quickly, and minds dull; too little, and tongues remain cautious. The goal is harmony. Balance, conversation, laughter, and thought in equal measure. Imagine the sound of voices filling the room. Soft at first, then rising and falling like waves. The topics drift easily from one to another. Politics, poetry, love, the nature of courage, the purpose of life. Socrates himself might be there. Unassuming, barefoot, his expression calm and curious. He would not lecture but ask questions, his voice patient and steady. What is virtue? He might ask. Can one truly know what is good? The others respond, each with their own certainty, their own reasoning, and the conversation moves in circles. Slow, rhythmic circles that seem to go nowhere, yet open quiet doors in the mind. The air grows thick with thought, with the soft hum of shared ideas. Music joins the evening. The gentle plucking of a lyre, the distant beat of a hand drum. A young boy pours more wine, the flicker of the lamp flame reflected in the bronze rim of the crater. The scent of smoke and honey drifts upward. Outside, the city is alive with its own quiet pulse. In the marketplace, even at night, merchants rearrange their stalls for morning. The Acropolis looms above, its marble columns cool under the moonlight. In the small courtyards, women grind grain or soothe children to sleep. The contrast between these lives, the philosophers' questions, the artisans' labor, and the mother's gentle rhythm, forms the tapestry of Athens. If Sparta's life is a march, then Athens' life is a conversation. Yet beneath the softness of this scene lies another kind of discipline. The discipline of thought, of curiosity, of civic duty. In the agora, citizens debate laws, question leaders, and vote on matters of war and peace. In the gymnasium, young men train their bodies, but they also train their minds, reciting poetry between exercises. In the workshops, craftsmen shape clay, bronze, and marble into forms that will outlast them all. The Athenians believe that beauty is a kind of order, that symmetry, proportion, and reason reflect the harmony of the universe itself. You can see it in their temples, in their art, even in the way they speak. Where a Spartan values silence, an Athenian values speech. Where one learns to endure, the other learns to question. Back at the feast, the conversation drifts toward the nature of love. One man, already flushed with wine, quotes a poet. Love is the desire for what we lack. Another counters that love is divine madness, the spark that makes humans strive toward the gods. Socrates listens, then asks softly, and what if love is not for another, but for wisdom itself? The others fall quiet for a moment. A log shifts in the brazier, sending a small crackle of sparks into the dim air. The night feels endless, slow, contemplative, like a tide rising and falling in thought. As the wine cups empty, the talk turns lighter. A flute player begins a slow tune, and some men hum along, others lie back, eyes half closed, listening. It is easy to forget the world outside these walls. The rivalries, the poverty, the slaves who work unseen. For a few hours in the glow of the lamps, there is only the rhythm of voices, the warmth of the wine, and the comfort of shared humanity. But Athens, too, has its shadows. Beyond the laughter and debate lies a system built on inequality, men speaking freely while women and slaves remain silent. For all its light, there are corners that stay in shadow. Still, the Athenians, more than most, are aware of this tension, aware enough at least to question it, and in questioning they begin to shape the world to come. As the night deepens, the last of the lamps burns low. The talk has dwindled to murmurs now, gentle wandering thoughts about the stars, the soul, the passing of time. Someone quotes Homer, his voice soft. As is the generation of leaves, so too of men. The others nod, each lost in thought, the firelight flickering across their faces. When the final lamp goes out, the city sleeps. The moon casts its pale glow across the marble stones, the olive trees, and the distant sea. Somewhere beyond the hills, Sparta lies in darkness, a land of order and silence. But here, in Athens, even the night hums with quiet thought. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The echo of voices carried on the wind, still asking, still wondering. The echo of a world that believed, deeply, that the mind was as sacred as the sword. And as the listener, you might feel a calm recognition that even in the ancient world, amidst hardship and hierarchy, there were people who looked up at the same stars you see tonight and asked the same questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is good? What is beautiful? In this gentle reflection, the differences between then and now begin to fade. The ancient feast dissolves into the rhythm of your breathing. The sounds of laughter and the pluck of the lyre drift away, like the last notes of a song fading into silence. And as the voices of Athens fade into the night, so too does your mind begin to settle. Calm, reflective, unhurried. The world of marble and firelight receding into the distance, leaving only quiet. You are safe now, in your own time. The echoes of history fade, and sleep draws near, as soft and steady as the ancient sea beyond the Athenian shore.